listening to Smashing the Party. This is your host, Nate Baumberger.
Welcome. I hope we have sound. Project 2025 Part 3. I'm revisiting this. I don't know. It's probably the third time I've revisited Project 2025. And the first time I revisited several times was because I had technical problems. So I didn't do it justice, but everyone's talking about it now. So I feel validated that I was talking about this early on. I'm not saying I was the first, but come on, folks. I'm on top of it, and it feels good. But what is Project 2025? People are going through it now. And for me, you know, I said last night, if you didn't watch last night's debacle, I had another sound issue, but I put out a good one. So follow the shorter one. It has all the good points in it, has sound. I talked about my problem with Democrats and the problem with Joe Biden being aging in front of us, and we can tell that his facilities aren't as quick and sharp. And it's troubling that we have our standard bearer and unable to sell the effectiveness of his own policies. So I said about this yesterday. So I'm going to complain about Joe Biden's age, and I'm going to complain about him all the time because it's fucking obvious and it's going to be untenable. But that doesn't mean I'm not voting for him, okay? And so tonight, Project 2025 is the reason it doesn't matter who the Republicans put up into power. This plan and agenda is difficult for me to get behind in any capacity, no matter if we had the Trump on our side. You know, I mean, and I say that with tongue in cheek because, you know, having a dictator on either side isn't good, but certainly having the plan that the Heritage Foundation put together, this Project 2025, is difficult to vote for. And it's because it's actual implementation. It's not just crazy talking and Trump just spouting nonsense, which then his interpreters come along and say, no, he didn't mean that. That's not really what it meant. You know, we get through that dance. We got the fucking Trump interpreters. They're like, no, that's not what he meant. You don't know what he meant. By the way, yes. I don't know if you can see that. My fucking logo. I think it's dope. I got my logo. The fucking lady at Dewey painted my logo on my nail. Okay, whatever. It's dope. Anyway, so this idea of Joe Biden being old and decrepit and rolling in on a gurney gets my vote not only because of Donald Trump, but because of Project 2025. And I'm going to go a little history. I know maybe you hear about it and you hear about bad things, but I'm going to do some real analysis on it and hopefully get through the thick and thin of it, get to some of the things that Republicans might like. Of course, if they put a plan out there, it's not going to be all evil to some people. And so I'm going to talk through it. But I like to talk about it with some historical context because it's important to understand where the Republican Party landed on their platform and how they got there. And I go back to 2016 when they had their first platform after Barack Obama. That was the 2016 when Barack Obama was out of office and Hillary Clinton was running against Donald Trump. And so you had Donald Trump, you know, having no record and Hillary Clinton having to go over her record. But both parties had a platform at that point. The Republicans had a convention. They had a convention that stated, you know, a lot of the language in there was undoing Barack Obama's policies. They talked about in 2016, the Republican platform at their convention. What the platform is, folks, is each party has like their manifesto, their agenda, their drive. It's their platform. It's what are they doing? What do they stand for? And so they articulate this. They're supposed to articulate this in some form. And so their party leaders are supposed to hold that standard. They're the standard bearers for the party. And so this is how the parties are supposed to work, right? You have the person that runs the Republican Party backing the platform agenda, pushing for that agenda that the party agreed on. And so this is how they kind of move the party and shape the party. And the party platform can change over time for a number of reasons, for any reasons. Data could change it. So this is just some historical context that these platforms, both parties have them. And so, but the history I'm going to go through is just interesting because 2016 business as usual. Both platforms have, both parties, Democrat and Republicans, have a convention where they have their primary winner and they nominate their, and then they talk about their platform and they codify it and they sign off on it and all this shit at the convention. So that's when they go, okay, this is what we agree to. And they come up with that plan. So 2016, again, the Republican platform was to undo the Barack Obama stuff. Most likely they'd get their red meat out to their base. Their base wanted blood for the 8 years of the black man running the fucking country. The fucking animal, they're like, oh, we gotta fucking have blood now. So their platform had a lot of like red meat to say, oh, we're gonna just undo everything Barack Obama did because of how evil he was, remember? And then it had other language that talked about their stance on LGBTQ. Okay, so this isn't a new thing that you're hearing about. They stated their indifference to these people back in 2016, saying, hey, look, you know, LGBTQ rights aren't a part of our beliefs, and we believe that those individuals should be reversed. We don't believe that there should be any federal support for any related healthcare services. And it includes eliminating traditional programs deemed that undermine, you know, any programs that would eliminate or undermine traditional family structures is the language they use. So this was in 2016 that they articulated some of this. And in 2016, they also talked about reversing Roe v. Wade, right? They talked about rolling back abortion. So these are things they talked about in 20. So you're hearing about Project 2025, and I'm like, all right, well, let's be honest here. This is scare tactics in some capacity. Hold on. Don't get all fucking crazy yet, liberals. There's some scare tactics on the surface here. That's like, all right, they're just doing the same crazy shit, right? But this is different. We'll talk about that. But these platforms, 2016, undo Obama. That's the Republican agenda. Obviously, Democratic agenda had, enhancing healthcare for everybody. And expanding work programs and childcare and all this stuff, reducing the cost of education. Republicans were like, let's remove regulation. All the same stuff they preach, lower government, but they don't do, right? So that's what they did in 2016. Again, then 2020 comes along, okay? Democrats, again, they know they got to go against Trump. And so they've got to, tighten up their agenda. And what do the Republicans run on at that point? They run on, basically, they copy and paste the 2016 platform. It still has language about Obama stuff in it. Doesn't have anything referencing Trump's new deal, anything he's done. Just talking about removing election and then basically signing off. And so there was no change. They did nothing. They had no party platform in 2020. It was unbelievable. Their platform was literally Trump, whatever he wants, we're going to do. And they just didn't cut it out because they're like, all right, we're just going to nominate him. He's going through, of course, it's chaos trying to get him elected. But they had no platform, just backing him. That's what they signed up. So, again, Democrats got together, had a convention, talked about their nominee, had to take down Donald Trump. What are we going to do? Articulated their platform, honed it in on some of the things they know they can't win, made some compromises, updated the document. Republicans copy-pasted the fucking document, put it in there, and said, but at the top of it and the bottom of it and the middle of it, threw out there, we're just going to stick our heads up Donald Trump's ass and we're going to be a polyp. We're not going to have any original ideas, but whatever this guy says, we're going to go along. You want to read the document and think that it doesn't say Donald Trump's polyps? That's what they want to be a part of? Okay, you can send me a message and tell me I'm wrong. But that's how I read it. That's how I interpreted that document, which was horseshit. It doesn't show any creativity from their platform either, other than their deference to Donald Trump. So, again, little history here. 2016, Democrats, Republicans have a platform. 2020, Republicans say, fuck it, we're just going to be Donald Trump's buttocks, stick our heads up his butt, do whatever he does. 2025, they're fucking pissed with Joe Biden. Of course, the Hunter thing doesn't sell too much for them because it's like Hunter wasn't who elected. They're running government chaos, sending the government after Hunter just for all these things. Hunter's getting what he's dues. I'm not going to get in the Hunter thing. I don't care about it. Like, if he's guilty of something, throw him in jail. Bill Clinton's brother was doing crazy shit. Get him out. I mean, do whatever you got to do. It's not a cult to me. I'm like, oh, protect the family at all costs. Weird shit like that. It's weird how the Trumpers, they protect this guy. So you've got, you got the chaos of Donald Trump. And so what do? They decide, you know what, we got to get our shit together. And so they don't really craft a policy. So first toss over the bow, by the way, was Rick Scott. He threw out a policy, what he was going to do when he gets elected. He was trying to get out in front of all the bullshit. And he put out something. I don't know if he was running for governor, but it was like the Rick Scott agenda. And basically said he wanted to get rid of Medicare and Social Security. And then he had to lie about it. But his document was clearly stating that. By the way, we should do a whole presentation on how these guys craft bills. Like, oh, everyone knows how a bill's crafted. No, do you really know how it's crafted? These guys don't even read the shit. They don't write it. Other people write it. So Rick Scott was like, oh yeah, I'll just back your agenda and fucking put it out there. Oh, well, I didn't mean that. So it was a disaster, right? But that was the first kind of effort of, all right, we didn't do shit. We didn't do shit for Donald Trump, and here's an effort. It was like a trial balloon, and I'm not sure if it was sanctioned by the Republican Party. I'm drawing this narrative out of it, right? So for all you mainstream people that fucking steal my shit, I'm drawing this narrative. I see it on your show. I know you're fucking watching. Sounds real conspiratorial and delusional, right? But who knows? I swear to God, sometimes I'm like, what the fuck, guys? Anyway, or I'm on it, right? Either way. All right, enough. So, you have this this chaos of the party. They don't have a platform. They sign up for just backing Donald Trump. 2025 comes along. They're now Rick Scott throws out his trial balloon, kind of falls flat. The Heritage Foundation, again, these big billionaires have these think tanks they put together. So it's like their vote plus they've got an agenda, these organizations that write policy for them. And there's liberal ones and Democratic or Republican ones. So, fair is fair. Both sides have them. Middle has them. Everyone has them. If you got money, you have your own think tank. That's probably what you want to do. If you got, that's what I'm going to do. If I'm a billionaire, I'm going to have a think tank, right? And why not? Obviously, if I was a billionaire, you'd have to call me extremely corrupt because obviously I did that on the backs of somebody else. Come on, somebody else. I'm not sharing enough. If I got $1 billion, I'm not sharing enough. It's just my opinion. Now, maybe I'm running an investment firm and I handle trillions of dollars of capital. I'm just saying, it just gets weird when you're talking about that much money to have for an individual to have that much power and control, especially when you can move economies, you can change. Just too much for one individual, and it should be distributed. We know. Anyway, all right. Let me get back to Project 2025, all right? And I'm giving you some history. Hopefully have fucking sound. I'm giving you some history just because I think it's relevant. So we've stamped 2016, 2020. We're at 2025. Democrats, again, they have a platform. Republicans throw out the Rick Scott agenda, kind of push that, see how it works, doesn't fall. Heritage Foundation think tank gets together and puts together Project 2025. And Project 2025 was a rewrite of a lot of the things that they talked about on their other platforms. However, now they're standing on top of Roe v. Wade, right? They've got Roe v. Wade, which is a huge loss for women's reproductive rights. I don't even know why it's like called reproductive rights. It's like women's health. Leave it to women's health and then be done with it. All your moral quandaries can stay out of the medical facilities and let the doctors and professionals work with that in the capacity that they're trusted to do. It's so bizarre. Like I said, we're going to start legislating genitalia at some point with these people writing these laws. And if you look at Project 2025, it's not like Nate's just going off the crazy end saying this shit. They talked about getting Roe v. Wade done with. Donald Trump is riding around the country for a while. Now he's backing out, bragging about it. So these policy agenda plans are the architecture, the structure, the plan, the strategy, the map for where the party's going, the North Star for where the party's going. So it's very important. This shit's not just, oh, Nate, who cares? No, it's like they articulate their different policy positions, and sometimes they may not align with you, believe it or not. You may not align with everything in that party. That's what the fuck we're talking about here, trying to get you to think out of the box, because I don't know how we got in this quandary of two old people, but we got to start thinking out of the box. No third party people, get the fuck out of here. We're not doing third party dance now. Anyway, Project 2025. It's also known as the Presidential Transition Project. The 2025 Presidential Transition Project And it was initiated by the Heritage Foundation, and it's aimed at preparing the president or a potential conservative administration so they can get out of the gate January 2025 and have a head start, have a plan, and have these four things. Again, Project 2025 gets into the details a little bit, but it's different than a platform in that a platform typically says high and mighty things of what they want, party wants to do. It doesn't necessarily get into the execution or the implementation. So it might say, look, we want public health care. We believe in women's rights. We believe in transgender rights. That might be a platform. And then, if you're going to try to execute that, the trick is getting into government and figuring out how to execute those strategies or those agendas, right? Project 2025 smartly takes it a step further and actually has action steps. So there's four things that make up Project 2025. It's not only policy agenda and platform ideas, okay? But that is a component of a policy agenda. But it's also a personnel database, okay? This is where it gets spooky, is that these are vetted people, supposedly vetted by whoever decides that align with conservative values that they're going to then replace civil servants with. So this is the fucking freaky part, right? So it's not only saying, hey, we got a policy agenda. Good for you, Republicans, for finally codifying it. But now we're going to go and change personnel based on their loyalty. Sounds oddly bizarre and freaky. This is where it gets freaky. Not only that, but we're going to have training and workshops for these people to indoctrinate them to make sure they align with our viewpoint. And it's a 180-day playbook. So right out of the gate, they're going to fire people, replace them with loyal people. And if you're a Republican, you're thinking, well, it doesn't make sense. This is playbook how governments get taken over and become so partisan and weaponized because the government becomes a party of loyalty. And so you have this divide inside the infrastructure. And now you've got to register your party affiliation or maybe even your religious affiliation. And that depends on the level of service you get. That exists in other places, by the way. This isn't just crazy talk. This is real shit that happens other places. And we're trying to protect that and make America not like other places in that capacity. At least I thought that was the fucking goal until Republicans hoisted Donald Trump upon us, who ignores all the core principles. But anyway, so four things: policy agenda, personnel database, training, talking about how they're going to institute all these things and get these people on board. And then it has a 180-day playbook. So the goal is to try to reshape the government to align and make it easier to implement conservative policies. That's the bottom line. So they're not only going for making sure they can get their policies in place because they think they're the best, they're going for permanently changing the structure so the government is now conservative inherently. It has this vetting process built in that checks to see whether or not you align with their ideology. That's absolutely... It's not a theocracy, but it's a weird-ass bureaucracy from the party that says, hey, government's going to let you do things the way you want, and certainly doesn't seem like that's a very transparent way to go by saying, hey, we're going to make sure that you align with these principles when that should be a nonpartisan issue. You shouldn't. There's a lot of positions in the federal government. Don't think that just because our politicians run around divided on all this bullshit that our government works that way. If you work in constituent services where you're dealing with people or working with the service, whether it's lobbying, rich people, poor people, you're working from the government's perspective, you're not vetting people to see where their alignment is on political, unless you're doing maybe high bid deals, but that should be illegal. We should know that should be like, you shouldn't have no bid contracts like, oh, buddy, here's a contract. So all the shit that they're pushing for is wacky, right? But they want to have this reshaping. So this is why it's more scary than just the normal Republican platform that they come out with at the convention. It has a playbook. It has this weird-ass database of personnel that they're going to manufacture and vet continually, almost like a continual test and check and workshop to make sure you're aligning with these principles. So this is not unlike what they've done with the Federalist Society. And if you're a Republican, this is a good thing. What they've been doing with the Federalist Society is grooming district and judicial nominees and Supreme Court justices, and they've been grooming them from a young age, and they've been cranking them out, and they're winning the courts through Donald Trump's massive amount of placements and He nominated a lot of judges, more than ever, I think, in the history in a 4-year term. So the Republicans just had a rubber stamp with him just running chaos. So they're doing that. Now, they did that with judicial. They still got that going on. I'm not saying, again, they're the ones arguing against judicial activism, but they have this agenda to have these people that are vetted a certain way to think. This is the same party that's, oh, we don't want activism. We don't want judicial activism. Both parties have that tainted vision of it. They want to have someone that's open-minded. The typical view is that you have someone that can see the rule of law and put partisan bullshit behind it. Now, that doesn't happen because that's kind of tied to your cognitive belief, and it aligns somewhere at the core when the decision's made for that ethical, moral deliberation. These judicial people are at that core point, and so it can weed in, but you want somebody that's like, all right, you want someone that can go, okay, here's what it is. I know I'm biased here, but this situation, you need really well-rounded people that aren't tied to an ideology in judicial positions. You want ideology so far away. It's near impossible to remove it from humans, but you don't want it in the judiciary. You don't want ideology at all. You don't want activist judicial branch. And so they're doing the same thing right now in the executive branch, where they're trying to embolden the executive branch. And so the large fear that comes out of Project 2025, when you read the details, is that there's this authoritarian thread of saying, all right, we're going to have soldiers that we pick in government positions. Let's just call them soldiers for lack of a better term. And we're going to then vet them all constantly, have training and workshops. I mean, are we holding our hands straight up in the air? Is there flags? Is there insignia? Are we wearing laced boots? Are we shaving our heads? I mean, what the fuck is this crazy shit they're articulating? And then it's a constant vetting and approval process. And then we're going to make sure we execute this plan in 180 days to throw massive chaos and fear, and so that people have to line really quickly. It's scary when you hear about the implementation details and the manner that they want to reshape the government in a short amount of time. So that's why people are jumping and getting crazy. It's not only the fact that you have them repeating their policy agenda, but it's these implementation details that talk about these bizarro acts of fealty and loyalty that they're going to incorporate into the government. This should scare you if you're a Republican. I mean, you don't want that. You're not going to want that much government influence. Okay, they align with me. Great. What if they don't? What if all of a sudden you have now a gay son and you're like, you know what? It was so stupid of me to be against gay people anyway. And now I'm like, fuck this. But now there's a whole thing that your son has to go through or daughter has to go through because they need to be vetted to do certain things to make sure they're not having warranted government approved sexual activity. And if you think that's crazy, this is where these dystopian ideas, Orwellian ideas, it's fucking storybook after storybook, and we hit it and we go, how could that happen? And it's like we see it happening because people just think so shortly, and there's other people that are thinking about the large picture and coming up with architectures and structures and plans and strategies for how they can control the system. And you won't even know it. You'll just be inside it, normalized, be like, oh, yeah, reproductive rights. No, we got to go through this thing, and you got to lay down and be raped by somebody and that's The Handmaid's Tale, by the way. So The Handmaid's Tale takes that dystopian view to the utmost core, showing that women have no autonomy and they're simply vessels for birth and the reproductive rights of this crazy country that comes out of this divide that happened in the United States. So that's my crudeness is referencing that story. And it's like, when people say The Handmaid's Tale, you can see how, a dystopian story where you have these women that are just vessels because of the things that happen with reproductive rights and how people just become infertile for whatever reason. I don't want to blow up the spoiler of the story, but it's a horrible story showing the battle of a woman having autonomy of herself and kind of male structures that are put in place, normalized, and there's good guys, bad guys. It's just crazy, okay? But that vision comes from taking some of these thoughts and saying, okay, let's act out your greatest wishes. Now we have, conservatives now, we just said that sex is for marriage only, and that's what we have, and it's by the law. How does that fucking work? I mean, all my conservative family members that are women had kids before they're married, and they were taught abstinence works. No, I mean, look, sisters, you all done good, raised good kids. Not saying anything, it happens. But as someone that was raised with, abstinence in mind, it just didn't work for the girls in the family. I mean, it doesn't say anything bad about them. I promise you, I'm not saying anything bad about my sisters here. I'm just saying that doesn't, they would have all been breaking the law. What happens then? They would have all broken the law in this new world where you have to enforce this idea of sex is between a man and a woman, because now you have this thought, the natural thought process of getting things right is codifying until you get it right. And that's the wrong. Republicans have it right when keeping government regulation at bay, except they just lose it when they start talking about personal, anything having to do with something they may not understand about an individual. Now they're like, oh, well, we've got to make sure the government has control in that. It's a bizarro, weird dichotomy. They do this dance every year, and they issue it effectively. People get all caught up in the emotion. Project 2025, perfect example. I mean, it has all the red meat that's going to get people like, yeah, no LGBTQ people getting special rights and taking sports away from my kids and yada, yada. And I want to go to the bathroom, feel safe. And women's, it's a baby and it's life, and people shouldn't. You have all the same shit, but you just don't have these people thinking beyond, like, all right, what's the emotional impact of a woman that's in a situation where she has an 8-month abortion decision she's got to make? I mean, who the fuck wants to get the government go, oh, well, what do they doing down in Congress if those guys decided how we can act? I guess I'm sitting here waiting for these men to decide if I'm going to be able to do this procedure on this terminal baby that we know is going to be dead when it's born, right when it comes out of the womb. I mean, there's diseases like this that you can't now deal with. So this isn't dystopian crazy shit. So I'm bringing it back to Project 2025 because it does the same normal stuff that Republicans do. And if you look at 2020, even though they didn't have a policy platform, they stood on getting Roe v. Wade in 2016. They got it done. So they really were just like, we got the biggest fucking emotional thing off our plate done. Donald Trump, we're going to sign up. There were more reasons. Mostly cowardice exists in the party. Not even giving you any credit, Mitch. Mitch Romney, the tough guy. There's a couple congressmen out there. Adam Kinzinger, I think his name. Adam Kinzinger. I forget his name. He's out there. There's a couple. Joe Walsh is now thinking straight. But there's a lot of cowards. Both parties have them. But right now, you got to say, if you got a bully in your leadership role and you can't stand up to him, you're just a coward. I mean, you're a man with equal part of the branch of the government. Maybe it's not the executive branch, but you got senators. You're an equal part branch of the government. You don't let the president bully you around if that's not where your stance is. But these guys don't have any strength. So you've got the same kind of stuff going on in 2025 in the Project 2025 when you hear about it. But it's different in that they are doing this personnel swap and this loyalty infusion, which really scares the bejesus out of people. To anyone that worked in federal government or state government understands that, you go in and you keep your politics to yourself. You can do whatever you want outside of work. Depending on your position, you may not be able to without kind of having people say shit. But for the most part, you can operate without people knowing what your political views are, unless they want to look them up, of course. And you may or may not want that on your record. But I'm telling you that there are people that work for the federal government that have leaned both ways, and they operate, and you would never know it from their job. And now you're going to replace those folks with appointees that are going to align and have this new vetting. It just makes no sense, people. It makes no sense coming from the party that says, oh, we personal responsibility and we'll stay out of your lives. Now, the stuff that people are going to like, that border security, big thing in there. They're talking about prioritizing national sovereignty. And this one, strengthening military capabilities, is always gets people hard on the right. Adopting a more assertive stance in international relations, standing up to the UN, making sure America's still the baddest guy in the block. It's got all that fucking red meat in it. The best thing about Project 2025, let's just call it Republican Trump agenda of 2020 and Republican agenda of 2016. And let's just go Republican agenda of 2012 on, every single year repealing and replacing Affordable Care Act. So they're still putting that in their platform, repealing it and replacing it with what? When you ask them with what? Nothing. So if you start to unravel the layers under the bullshit and under the fear, it's got some crazy shit in it for the implementation, but it's always been scary. It's always been weird. They're always coming after people's rights every single time. This time they just had a 180-day timeline, and that they're going to have this new, which again is scary, implementation plan of vetting people. But if you look deeply, folks, the Republicans have been doing scary shit for a while with the infusion of corporate statehood, personhood, with Reagan just validating all that. And you see the corporate greed go like this. The graph just shoot up. Wages stabilize. Unions are busted. He was the big union buster guy. Oh, yeah, big capitalism's winning. The 80s were so profitable. Not for you and me. It was really when we started to see the fucking equity gap grow and grow. We're through the 70s. We're through the 60s. The good old 50s where black people don't have rights and women are still second-class citizens as well. But, you know, it's like, no, the good times were like going. 70, fucking Carter got a bad rap. Reagan took it to the fucking hill with the corporate standing behind corporate America and really infusing and lowering the tax rate and then having to raise it again, but lowering it and getting it normalized where taxes are theft. And this became the new mantra. Think tanks boomed. Evangelicals came out. They're now gospel crazy, saying, hey, I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of the evangelical was this prosperity gospel. So you now have this infusion of the party and their tax base and their religious base. And so you start to see where now you have this infusion of this economic tax conservative small government with this also, we got to impose family values. And that means controlling what people do. So it has all that stuff. They have not gotten away from their major merger that happened in the 70s and 80s with the evangelical right. And it's still coming out. So there's a lot of Republicans that are, don't look at that very kindly. And I'm speaking to those folks that understand the separation of church and state and that you can't legislate legality. You can't legislate morality. That's a whole nother topic we can talk about. You can certainly shape behavior, but if someone's immoral, they're going to find ways to be immoral no matter what system you create. Think about that before you fucking text me and say I'm wrong. Okay, it's not like I just came out of my ass. But Project 2025 on its surface is scary for a number of reasons. But one of the largest reasons is that's continuing the Republican march down this lane of removing people's autonomy that they have over their ability to live the life they want to. And then also widening the gap for those folks and removing services that we all use that we don't have $1 billion. We don't have the luxury of, going bankrupt or having 2 kids in our family that might have challenges or illness in our family and going broke. We don't have the luxury of having a think tank behind us. So we have to have policies that we can distribute the risk since we don't have that exorbitant wealth. So the policies that are coming out of the Heritage Foundation are going to be geared towards people that have think tanks. And it's going to be a little bit of red meat to keep us fighting over the bullshit. But for the most part, you're seeing this shift towards this deregulated, centralized executive power so they get their buddy in office. Their buddy is in office now, and that buddy can just, remove regulations now that the Supreme Court's weakened the executive branches, administrative branches. It's so weird. They strengthened the executive power of the executive branch with their recent ruling, but they also made it weaker. They made it stronger for judges, but they also allowed it so that the president has more power over also aligning with whatever the law is. So he can almost override these agencies at will as well. Now that normally does happen as well, but they made it more clear now that the judges and the president can actually kind of bypass any alphabet letter institution. And this is where the experts lie. So if you're like, I'm come on, this is where the experts lie. PhD people are supposed to work there. This is where those people that nerd out on weird shit go to keep us safe and do all the things that, we might find monotonous and boring. These experts live there and work there, and they provide us valuable data for making good policy. So by weakening this branch and saying, oh, we're not going to trust Department of Education or whatever it is, you're now saying that you're not going to trust experts. And you're putting that power back in the executive branch, maybe at the presidential level or in the courts. And so, if you're a legislator, you're probably like, well, what do I do? I don't know what the fuck you're doing. You're not getting along with your peers. And you're getting behind Project 2025, which is going to make your position as a legislator even weaker, because now you've got the executive branch getting more power in some instances and the judicial. So legislators, while you're usually taking care of to pat yourself on the back, you're sitting by aimlessly watching the executive branch be torn up by the judicial branch making power grabs, and you're looking like weak cowards sucking up to a wannabe dictator. That's what I see in the Republican Party, and Project 2025 does nothing but codify that again. They don't make as many references as 2016 to Donald Trump, but it's all in there. It's just the same. They're still backing him as the nominee, still doing all the same shit. And one of the reasons they're always going to back him is because he can run chaos and they can just rubber stamp things while we're focused on every fucking scandal that Gatlin gun scandal motherfucker has. One of the things that's kind of weird about Project 2025 that's been a mantra of Republicans, but they're pushing a little further, is actual language used in reference to abortion, in reference to LGBTQ. So they're codifying that they want to make it illegal for any federal government to reference those things because they want to criminalize them or suggest that they're outside of the purview of any government intervention. So when you're attacking trans rights, that's your pattern, is you want to go after the fact that we're just going to make it so the government doesn't even recognize it. So that way you can't get any special rights, nothing. And then on the other issue, it's the same effort. If they can get abortion to be made illegal, then having any reference to it in documents or that makes it hard to even talk about. I mean, for instance, let's take marijuana. By making marijuana a Schedule III drug, it makes it hard for people to study the effects and actually do research around it because it becomes hard to get and all these things. So by criminalizing abortion, it becomes harder to understand women's health. I'm not laughing, by the way, women. I apologize if that sounds like I'm mocking. It's the stupidity to think that a government should have anything to do with this other than specialties folks and people that study this and doctors and medical professionals. And I'm okay with psychologists and interventionists coming in and talking about it in a realistic way, not shaming, but in talking about the options available. I'm not opposed to any of that. And I'm just saying that can happen between a woman, whoever professional she feels comfortable with. But I'm not going to say, oh, you need to have these people to place and blah, blah, blah. Look, whatever woman, it's way outside of my purview. I've become more uncomfortable. Discomfortable. I love when I do that. I've become more uncomfortable talking about abortion in general just because it's so way outside of my purview of understanding or even position of having influence on that. It's just boggling. I stand with free choice and it being women's health issue, and it falls under just in the medical field. It's some medical thing that I'm not going to have any influence on, and I will, certainly stand by a partner or something to that effect, but it's not, I just don't, it's just so bizarre to me. But this is one of the things that they've done. And so when I talk about it, I don't want to focus too much on that. Look, I can do a whole thing on abortion. It's one of those issues. It's a instant divider for a lot of people. But Project 2025 does do things that go a little step further than just saying, all right, we're going to get rid of Roe v. Wade. They want to go and say, well, we want to remove language. We want to do these things to just almost as if they don't exist. So by suggesting that their language can't be used, isn't that crazy? That then these things kind of be harder to deal with and even study. And there can be no, so for instance, the DSV, as long as the DSM, I said DSV before, as long as the DSM, said homosexuality was a mental disorder, government could reference the American Psychological Association and say, look, their book says. So having things written down in many instances, including in law, it codifies something. It becomes a reference. It becomes a citation. It becomes a citable document or reference or fact point that other things can be built upon. So if you remove that infrastructure, which the word is an infrastructure that builds up sentences and phrases, right? If you remove the ability to use that component, you remove people's ability to communicate about that component in any way, even at an academic level, even a social level. For instance, retard, word we're not allowed to use. You know I love it, but it makes it hard to talk about retards if we can't use the fucking word, right? I had to throw my retard joke in there. You know it's an ongoing joke. I have many retards in my family, many retarded friends. Most of my friends are retarded, I feel like. So, jokes aside, joking. What else? Project 2025. So, big things I'll label is, I want to go through that again and I'll kind of wrap because I just wanted to give you an agenda, like talk about the things that, it's a pretty large document. You can read through it, but there's just kind of, if you read through it, you'll at least have kind of an understanding of the four structures. Look for the policy agenda. They articulate that. Their personnel database is unique. The training of these personnel swaps that they want to do, and then this playbook is different than a party platform. But it's what they're rolling around with, and you see them backing away from it slowly but surely. Even Trump's backed away from it because the language is so strong, and it's such a radical change to say we're now going to have a government that vets its people. Its civil servants are vetted now, and we're going to have this truth serum that we're going to have to constantly run on people that work in the federal government. It is not okay. It is not going to be okay if that actually gets implemented. It's going to create a very, very divided government. It's going to become a government where you're going to now have internal strife on how things should work because people are going to want to vet every single action that comes out of it, whether it's something that's done for a Democrat or Republican. You already see Trump creating that doubt and certainty in the judicial system. Well, what's the judge? It's a Trump appointee. They always got to say now who appointed who. They have to. Because of that, it's been normalized, right? So let me just talk about the big things. Government structure, streamlining federal agencies, normal shit. Economy and taxation. They always say implementing tax reforms, whatever that means. Reducing government spending, never fucking specific. Promoting free market principles. What the fuck does that mean when we have this cannibalized, banana republic, pay as you go, highest bidder capitalism system? Healthcare, again, we've been hearing them say it since Obama. They can't get over it. They can't come up with something new. The Affordable Care Act, they want to repeal it. I've been hearing that so long. Again, by the way, Joe Biden is old as fuck, but do you hear me say anything that's like negating the fact that he's got crazy policies that are going to do these things and segregate people and separate us on these wedge issues? None of that. So whether Joe Biden's heart is pumping or his brain's working functional, at 100% capacity, it's an easy choice for me is whoever Democrats put up, I'm going with because of these things, because of this hypocrisy, this lack of action, their abuse of the system, their weaponization of every single special counsel or every single investigation becomes a political nightmare where we can't get facts because they're spewing things to try to make them facts. And so this is why I continue to vote Democrat. It's not the best thing in the world. Of course, third-party people are going, well, maybe you try. No, it doesn't work that way. It's a lost vote. Stop fucking thinking it's not. It's not big enough. Sure, Ross Perot, we had a great run. If you're an independent, that was the heyday. Get another independent run. But the Libertarian Party, this bullshit that you're even going to represent half of what a smart person thinks or even understands about public policy is laughable. It's a child's game. Libertarians, fucking come in my inbox with your best shot. Bring the Reason magazine writers. I don't give a fuck. But libertarianism is just a non-starter for anyone that's serious about policy. It really is. So many reasons. Won't get into it today. But, you have this same use of the language to attract these libertarians. Like, well, yeah, we believe in free market. We believe in reducing the size of government. And so that's the red meat for those folks, which, again, need to get out of toddler land on fucking real macroeconomic and social policy and look at how libertarianism doesn't solve any problem, washes its hands, the Pontius Pilates of fucking politics, I like to say. They got to throw in their immigration, strengthening the border security. They've created this border concern, Donald Trump apparently solved the border while simultaneously it falling apart the day Joe Biden took office. Why? I don't know. If Donald Trump solved it, this they can't answer, but this is red meat for them folks as well. And obviously energy independence always makes them get hard-ons over oil. Supporting fossil fuels, you got to say that, because energy independence, you can't leave it at that. You got to make sure that you say fossil fuel industry, and you want to roll back regulations. This is Project 2025, rolling back environmental regulations to make sure that we're not seeing any harm to economic growth. So blow up the planet, make sure we're making a buck. True story. That's how it works. This isn't fucking me adding stuff. They want energy independence, support fossil fuel industries, and roll back environmental regulations seen as harmful to the economic growth of the country. And so this makes no sense. Economic growth is more important than destroying the fucking country. Makes no sense. Hey, your business is still going to run, but it's going to be burned down. You want to keep going? You want to keep burning? You want to put the fire out? Your business is making money, but it's burning down. What do? Oh, we can't stop to fucking shut the place down to put out the fire. We just got to keep making money. Okay, you're just going to let the fire burn the whole fucking thing down. Makes sense. That's what the United States decides to do when they promote energy independence, supporting fossil fuels, and remove environmental regulations to protect the planet. Folks, this isn't rocket science. It's not even environmental science. It's kind of like kid science. Like, oh yeah, duh, I'm not going to let the house burn down. I'll stop making money for a while I put my fire out. And then, of course, always defending religious freedom. And when they say religious freedom, they mean protecting the rights of the unborn, and also opposing any policy that supports LGBTQ communities and abortion. So this is their religious freedom for them, is these policies that then they incorporate their moral kind of positions on abortion as well as LGBTQ community. So again, I want to reiterate, Project 2025 is scary. Republican agenda has been scary for years. Don't kid yourself. It's just now they put a marketing term on it that was real easy and flashy to put in a hashtag, Project 2025, and you say it enough, it starts to become a bad word, and it is. People are walking away from it. But make no mistake, if you've been voting Republican for this long and you're like, well, I guess I'm going to switch up because this year they put it in Project 2025. Congratulations that the marketing term finally fixed your propensity to vote Republican, thinking that you were voting in your best interest. True story. If you're a woman, it's not in your best interest to vote Republican right now. It's just not. Whether you're a grandma or not, you got friends that are females. If you have anyone that's in your family or friend or circle that is gay, straight, heterosexual, LGBT, anything that has sex, you're probably going to want to vote Democrat, because who knows what the fuck's coming down the pike for the invasion of your privacy and your ability to do whatever you want between two consenting adults. Who knows? True story. Who thought they'd go after IVF? That's what they did. And you're cheering it on, saying, oh, I got conservative family members that are doing IVF that think it's bullshit. I know they voted for Trump. I don't blame them for the things that they voted for. I understand people have their reasons. I think it's insane. I've made my case there. But of course, now as they go through this now becomes an issue where they're like, wait a second, now it's affecting me and this is bullshit. Well, I mean, we knew it was coming. We knew that voting Republican was going to lead this to the way. If they actually get their policies, it's not like, oh, okay, I like everything else, but if they don't get those things, I'm okay. If they get those things, that's horrible. If there's things on their list that make your life horrible, that party might have the wrong viewpoint for you. And if you're a woman, suggesting that, me, whoever is elected, maybe some men in a council, but every time you do something, we got to know about it. Trust me, we're going to know. If Texas state law becomes federal law, we're going to need monitors on every female to know whether she's in heat or not. I'm not shitting you, because they want to know at the point of conception whether something happened. So why not just make it easy and make it so that women have to track their menstrual cycles, and then we know whether they're heat. We can tell when they're not. I mean, you think that's fucking insane, but what's the next logical step if you're going to enforce a law that says, all right, we need to know whether it's 6 weeks, and people are going to argue, look, it was 5 weeks and 3 days, I'm good, or whatever. So now you've got to really get down to the science of it, and you need to track menstrual cycles. You need to track, conception when it happens. And that's the next thing. If they're coming after IVF, that's so... Oh, wow. Did my fucking thing freeze? Hold on. Let me see if my streams... Hopefully you see it now. Project 2025. I think I'm still streaming. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know how much my thing was dead, but I was on a rant there. How long am I going? It's 11:20. I got to try to keep it under an hour because every time I go over an hour, it makes it so I can't post to TikTok, and I need to post to TikTok. So Project 2025 has a number of problems. I'll summarize. Again, it's 4 parts: policy agenda, it's got personnel database, it's got the training program for these people, and then it's got the 100-day playbook. They break it into government structure, economy, healthcare, education, immigration, foreign policy, energy, and environment, and social issues. They get more specific with language. They get more aggressive at chasing the language used in government for how things are represented, which is probably a smarter tack if you're going to get it done right away, is to make sure the language used has to be a certain way. But again, they're trying to do this swap of personnel to make sure they have vetted people, and that's the core thing that's crazy. Crazy, though, is the Republican agenda has been crazy for a while. It's not been working for American people. If you look at the wealth disparity, if you look at any kind of individual rights or any kind of legislation that was beneficial for human beings in the United States, none of it was passed by a Republican Congress in the last 50 years. You can fact check me and send me things that are false. I will say, okay, they were most likely bipartisan, but no idea that really changed people's lives in the last 50 to 100 years, 60 years, was done by Republicans. And look, we can get into civil rights. We can talk about civil rights. We're going to talk about what the party that was consistent with what party is today, with who voted on civil rights, and I'm going to still be right. So we're going to have to just make that one a wash because I know people are going to come at my inbox with that, but they're going to lose anyway because it's fucking party swapped. Project 2025 is a reproduction of Republican policy with the added spice of execution and implementation with a 180-day timeline. And so it's meant to give to Donald Trump and say, here's your plan, get out there and run. Okay? And so Donald Trump's going to run. I mean, he's not going to. His folks are going to do these things to get their policies done. And again, this came from the Heritage Foundation, a billionaire think tank for conservatives, not designed to benefit the common man in America. No matter what you think, it's not. It's not. They're like, oh, let's think of policies that benefit America. No, their policies are going to benefit the family, the members that run the Heritage Foundation. It's not going to be you and me, okay? So just understand that these think tanks aren't creating policy that are beneficial to everyone. They're mostly beneficial to the folks that run them, and maybe if there's a side effect that can be beneficial to other folks, then it's done in place. But if it's not, union busting, whatever it is, low taxation for corporations, corporate personhood, that stuff's not good for you and me. Having PACs, having super PACs, having dark money in politics, Citizens United. I mean, these aren't good things for you and me. These are think tank actions that these rich people are getting done for their benefit, okay? So Project 2025 and the Republican agenda has not shown me to be any different this year, other than they have a fast plan and they have some personnel swaps that are dangerous. But other than that, the Republican Party has been putting on a dangerous agenda for a while. I'd love to get a Republican Party that's not dangerous and not looking after curbing people's civil liberties and curbing people's ability to live the life they want to live with the person they want to love. It's so bizarre. So I'd love to see a Republican Party that comes back to their values, looks at limited government through the blue line, looks at limited government through the tyranny of police and how that has affected civil rights. That's the Republican Party I'd love to see. That's, oh, we're actually for small government. We realize that police force are a tool used in every single instance of any single uprising of government. The first instance the government uses is cops. So that would be nice to see them say, you know what, I don't want to defund cops, so let's have the best, brightest, smartest, well-trained cops that understand their role in the community and not as an enforcement tactic. I'd love to see that. That'd be some real conservative shit. So it's out there, and I'm not just saying, hey, they need to think to align with me, because I don't necessarily agree with that method of thinking, but I could see that if you had a conservative viewpoint in small government, then you could also probably even get me on your side by saying, we agree that, police are used in the tyranny of government. And so we also believe that government shouldn't be tyrannical. That's why we're so fucking nuts about our Second Amendment rights. And so these are things that you could align on, people that have intelligent conversations, aren't caught up in the cult of personality like we are now, and caught up in, simping for billionaires. So Project 2025 just does the Republican playbook with some bells and whistles, some more red meat, and some execution strategy, which is scary, and some holding power with the replacement of personnel. So that's what Project 2025 is, but it's lovely that some of them are walking away from it. But when they walk away from Project 2025, I have to say, you're walking away from major Republican parts of their platform and their agenda. What are you walking away from specifically in Project 2025? That's the next step journalists have to get with their people when they're accessing these folks and talking to them about Project 2025, and they walk away from it. All right, listen, I'm trying to speed up because I know I'm over time. I got to give my thank yous. Dude, you guys are awesome. A lot of comments yesterday. A lot of comments came in my inbox. I know a lot of people don't agree with me about me talking about Joe Biden being old and then having the risk of Donald Trump out there, but I feel strongly about it. I'm going to say it. You see, Jon Stewart's almost, I swear he's watching my shit because he said the exact same thing I said after I said it. And so it just, again, it validates me that he's got a team of writers and I've got my team of designers and writers and engineers, which consists of me and my multiple personalities. But, so I like to think that when I match up with the storyline and he follows suit, that maybe I'm onto something. Now, I don't necessarily want to be compared to mainstream media, you know that, but I'm not corporately bought. So at least I have that going for me, right? Anyway, want to say thank you because it does hit really nice when I get comments. It does hit when I get people that listen and actually pay attention to what I'm saying. And it's nice when I get folks that actually respond to it, even if it's negative. I got a bunch of folks that definitely disagree with most of what I say, but they're always engaging, and I love it. So thank you for everybody following. I'm getting closer to pulling the plug on all social media except for YouTube. I'm not doing it yet because I still like the numbers that I get on Facebook, and it's mostly pride because, it's the numbers I have on Facebook, while good, are less impactful. If I had the same numbers on YouTube, I probably would just be doing this full time. So if I had 6,000 followers on YouTube, I could probably figure out how to monetize that in a way that's a little different than what I'm doing now. I'm not saying I'd be rolling in it, but I could make this thing work a little bit, crank it a little higher. So I'm going back and forth with that. I'm hesitant to do the move because I'm still running into this, idea that I need these viewpoints for my own ego. But there's no way to grow my there's a cap on how fast or how much I can grow on Facebook. And the audience I want to reach is much more diverse than YouTube. And there's more staying power there. And there's more revenue at the top end for YouTube. So it's a smart move if I want to make this a thing, right? And that's what we want to do. So I still love everybody on Facebook and Instagram. I've hesitated to cast on Instagram lately because I'm kind of trying to drive those folks to Instagram or to YouTube. But hey, what we do here. We haven't missed a beat since April. We're on point. If we do this for 6 months, we know what happens. If you do this for 2 years, you know what happens. If you do this for 5 years, what happens. We continue to grow. It doesn't matter. If we suck forever, we do this for 5 years, we're good. So I'm very happy with the support I have, but I'm also happy that we haven't missed a beat. Sure, we might have missed a time or we might have had some technical challenges, but we've been hitting all the right at least consistent and been persistent and making sure that we're doing it every night we say we're going to do it. I'm proud of that. After Hours is struggling not because I can't find people to do it, but I don't want to fucking embarrass myself with interviews, and I'm not quite there yet. And I see a lot of folks doing interviews. It's lovely, but I'm still finding that I get most of my mental anguish out doing this. And so when I'm cutting down to brass tacks and trying to figure out what the fuck I'm going to do, I always fall back to where I'm comfortable, and this is comfortable. I need to get out of my comfort zone. I know that. But keep watching. We will. We always do, and that's why we're kind of here today. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I appreciate the support. I appreciate all the love. We'll be back tomorrow at 10:30 p.m. Listen, you got to vote for Joe Biden. I gave you a whole bunch of reasons to vote for Joe Biden if he's wheeled in on a gurney. Project 2025 is a huge one. You're going to see people walk away from it. Don't let them walk away from it. Help them understand that if they're walking away from Project 2025 just because of some of the language, they actually need to reconsider their membership of the Republican Party, because a lot of the stuff that's happening in Project 2025 has already been in play. Some of it already been codified with the loss of Roe v. Wade. True story. Check me out tomorrow, was I going to say military time? 2030? Is that military time? Anyway, 10:30 p.m. That's not military. 22:30. See, I don't even know military time. 10:30 p.m. tomorrow Eastern Standard Time. We'll be on YouTube, YouTube and Instagram. Make sure you follow Smashing the Party. I appreciate all the love. Make sure you vote for Joe Biden, even if he's old. Project 2025. You learned a little bit about it tonight. If you see anything I said wrong, let me know in the comments. I'm probably not wrong on this one because this is the third time I've done this. So I think I got it. Anyway, thanks for listening, people.